What made you realize your significant other wasn't the one? And she said that I was too selfish of a person. This is less a representation of who I am and more of who she is. She was a PhD student in special education, and her goal was to travel to war-torn countries and teach English to children with disabilities there. I designed medical devices in the air-conditioned office, so to her, I wasn't willing to personally sacrifice enough to help others. She's a wonderful person, but I realized that I could never live up to her standards of altruism. That's not fair. Story 2. My dad passed away in 2000, and a friend of mine brought over a tray of food to my family. We were friends, but not close enough to where we knew each other's phone numbers or addresses. It was a complete surprise to see her. She just heard about it and looked for something to do to help. Months later, I realized it was something my girlfriend would never do. I started dating the food tray girl about 15 months later and married her. Congratulations. Story 3. She didn't want the one, just a one. Like on a strict timeline. She broke up with me as soon as I signed a 1-year lease on an apartment because that would mean we wouldn't move in together for at least a year. She has to be engaged by February of 2018, and that just won't work out. She needs to be married by September of next year, and I just messed up her timetable. She was 20 years old, and we've been dating for 3 months. Yeah, I had no idea about her plans, so good luck. What is that girl on? Story 4. When we met, we were both very not having children. Back then, it was one of my vetting issues. I did not want to start any kind of relationship if the woman wanted kids because there was no freaking way I was going to have kids. 2 months after we started dating, she gave me the following list of demands. I was to quit my very nice paying job to get a better, much higher paying job. I was to buy her a house in Connecticut. We were living in the New York area at the time, but not together. Preferably Darien. We were to get married immediately, if not sooner. And she wanted to get immediately pregnant with the first of 10, yes, 10 children she wanted by me. The first time she told me this, I thought she was joking. No. The 50 times she said it after that made me realize that she was 100% serious. This was the mid-90s, and it ghosted so hard I moved from New York to Arizona overnight without telling her. We're friends again now, as in Facebook friends, and she met and married another guy. No kids, though. Has been happy for the last 21 years. But talk about whiplash. Story 5. The realization was painful and gradual, mostly owing to his inability to have reasonable discussions, refusal to respect my perspective, and nonstop grudge holding. But the last straw for me was when he broke one of my possessions. Thankfully, something small or cheap, in a fit of rage. I knew I couldn't spend the rest of my life with something like that. Left, soon after. Also, I was scared of him. Never felt that way about an SO before. Yeah, you definitely dodged a bullet. Story 6. We met online just before or as we were both leaving long-term relationships. We had many similar interests. We both needed someone to lean on and were already predisposed to fast connections. Seemed great. Ideal. A bunch of other positive adjectives and such. I suddenly needed to get away from where I was, and we talked about me moving halfway across the country. And we, mostly her, she's brilliant, made it happen. Problem was, we had no physical chemistry in person. We were a much better match as friends. Took a few months for that to really sink in. As it did, other things came up. She was smarter with a way better memory. She approached the world very differently from me, and gradually, things became strained as all the little things added up. So, we broke up. Both of us have avoidant personalities, so we lost touch as friends very rapidly. I'm happier when I move and she's met someone who's a better match for her. For a brief while, we were what the other needed, and I appreciate that, but I still miss my friend. Story 7. I one day randomly snapped out of my depression, saw how crappy my life was with him, broke off our engagement, moved back to my grandmother's, committed myself to a psych ward 2 weeks later. But there's much more of a backstory to the last part. That my ex is a man-child. Broke as heck and has no control over his life because his life is controlled by his mother. I had him over to play MTG last week and he's like, "You live in a crappy apartment." The only thing I could respond to him with was, "I'd like to see what you can afford and what you make. And at least I still don't live with my mother." Oh my god, sick burn, call an ambulance. Story 8. Being married now, I see what made all the others not work. I was too absorbed in having the same common interests. That will sustain you for a while. You learn to grow together and become comfortable with each other. Heck, you might even fall in love with each other. But then it hit this wall where one of us didn't want to move forward. With my now wife, everything felt right. I never had to question anything. I thought I might even have one of those, "oh crap, do I really want to get married or marry this person" moments? But it never came. I was absolutely certain she was the one for me. I feel the same way about having our first kid together. Due at the end of this year. There is stress, but no worrying. Story 9. I'm married now, but with my ex-boyfriend, I realized I couldn't stay with him because while I couldn't put my finger on why, I knew that I didn't want my family or friends to meet him. He had no real redeeming values and was emotionally cruel. It was easy to stay with him because of how isolated I was, but when my mom said she wanted to come visit from out of state, I was afraid and didn't want her to come. Eventually, I got out and started dating my husband a few months after that. Could not be happier, and my family loves him. Story 10. We were at a party and he wanted to go home. As we were leaving, a girl said that she hopes I feel better. I said, not me, my husband. He grabbed me and gave me a look that scared me. We went to the car and he freaked out. Turns out they lied about me being ill so that this girl would see what a selfish wife I am. He told me that I wasted his life being married to me. I was so done. I asked him to leave. He packed a bag that night. Had a long relationship with that girl, his boss's wife. She played them against each other and left with both their cash. Now I'm happily remarried and he's still picking up pieces 6 years later. I don't want bad things for him, but after his second DUI, I don't have any sympathy left. He got what he deserved. Well, that's another bullet dodged. Story 11. My 2 exes from college. Number 1, absolutely freaking crazy. Just a breakdown a minute. Couldn't break things off with her ex. Bounced between 2 to 3 guys. Just a spastic person in general. Still, this is way like 8 years later. Number 2, didn't want to label us as dating, took advantage of my willingness to take her out to nice places and such, despite little money, bragged about using me later on. Then when she talked about how she was asexual to a friend, in front of me as well, now she didn't need a boyfriend or anything, all the while telling me she wanted to be my girlfriend and liked dating, I was out. She's still the only person I absolutely hate. Story 12. She dumped me on my 21st birthday and proceeded to go wild at college over the next month, whistling someone on the swim team, fooling with some random frat guy, and falling in love with a dealer who gave her synthetic crap, which led to her going to the hospital. We were together for about 1/3 of my life, but her new college friends convinced her I wasn't worth it anymore and that she should be having fun with the new guys. She quickly realized I was better than the casual fling she went with, but by then, it was too late. She messed me up horribly ever since, and I can't really let my walls down for anyone anymore. Definitely had a hard time, even forgiving her. Story 13. We were married for about 4 years. I caught on that she must have been putting on an act while we were dating because it seems like the moment we got hitched, her true form came out. I had to constantly tell her how rude or inconsiderate to other people she was. Started buying pills and using my health insurance to go to multiple doctors to get prescribed different crap, and I started witnessing her shoplifting when we were out. The final straw was that we went to my cousin's wedding, which had an open bar. She kept getting drinks and just leaving them on tables still full. Wasting drinks on purpose, and if it caught her in the act, I'd go pick it up and down it just so nobody else would notice. I would confront her about it, and she'd get mad and scream, "It's no big deal. They're free." Well, to us, yes. To my cousin, no. It's very disrespectful. Well, I ended up in the hospital later that night due to alcohol poisoning. A week later, when I finally recovered, I left her. You didn't find any other solution than to down all those drinks, man? Story 14. I still do not fully understand how or why or when, honestly. Everything was perfect. But then one day at work, I saw my coworker with a different eye. Not just physically, but I felt a genuine spiritual connection with her, and I do not believe in that stuff. At least I didn't, until now. Even though I work with her and cannot pursue my feelings, I am thankful for her shedding light onto my current relationship and making me see clearly. You'll never know how she helped save me. That is the hardest part to have to accept. Story 15. My ex made me feel like I was almost perfect for him. I was smart, but talked too much, so he criticized me. I was motivated, but I spent too much time in my research assistant job in undergrad, so he told me I was wasting my time. It was fun, but I smoked cigarettes occasionally, so he broke up with me, knowing he would get back together after I promised never to do those things again. I love my family, but my sister had previously struggled with substances, so he refused to spend time with my family and openly manipulated me to stop paying attention to them. I felt like I checked boxes on his list of a perfect woman, but I was too loud, too rowdy, and had my own priorities that he never respected. We'd started dating when we were in high school and kept it all through college. I really didn't like the feeling like there were so many bad parts about me. I mean, who would? Story 16. And I realized that I was lonely as his girlfriend because he just didn't care. Wasn't there. The best part of a relationship is to have that person who you open up to and share mutual care with. You're there for each other and talk through things together, always putting the relationship first. That wasn't the case in this relationship. Whenever I was hurt or upset, I felt like he couldn't care less. In fact, he would more likely distance himself from me when I needed him most. I was always lonely and disappointed, waiting and hoping for more love, openness, and affection, but it just didn't come. It was the hardest relationship to leave because we were so perfect for each other. I tried to give him everything, but it just wasn't reciprocated. I had to always remind myself why I needed to let go and find someone better. A few months after, I did. He is there for me. He loves me. He cares for me, and he doesn't walk away when things become tough. He steps up to the plate and works through them because the relationship and our commitment to each other are important to him. Gosh, I love that man. Story 17. I was young, foolish, and immature. We married because she gave me the attention I was seeking. You might say I married the first girl that looked in my direction. After several years of marriage and a few kids, I believe I've matured just enough to not need a constant stroking of my ego. I'm sure I have other issues, though. But I woke up one morning and realized that I'm with someone who I have absolutely nothing in common with. More or less doesn't like me as a person, can't hold an adult conversation with, and doesn't make me laugh, and has gone off the deep edge of religion. So I'm an evildoer to boot. God, I'm lonely. Story 18. Saw how much he hated himself and gradually came to accept the old truism that those who do not love themselves can't truly love another. This is so much truer than we like to believe, especially since so many people seem to hate themselves these days. It can be hard to just find someone with true self-love. Still, this constant always bears out in the end, and sure enough, that's the way we want for us too. It may feel like love at first, but once you get close enough, you and the relationship will be lumped right in with their self-loathing. Oh, for them, the fantasy's fun, for a little while, but should it ever become real, you'll never be able to compensate for the original sin of loving a wretch such as themselves. I hope you find someone who, for him, is worth the effort of personal growth and self-acceptance. No one can do it for you, and it is worth to try for yourself, if only so as not to hurt the people who care for you the most. Story 19. Broke up like 3 weeks ago. Her mood swings were huge. Because of these mood swings, we started to fight constantly about useless little things. The biggest problem is that it wasn't her fault, actually. She had some self-issues. One of her parents passed away when she was young. She needed to work on, so I had to move on. The hardest thing is that I actually still love her a lot, but I just couldn't deal with all her struggles anymore. Story 20. Late to the party, but looking back, it was probably when we'd get into bed together and she'd literally just roll over and try to fall asleep. We didn't live together. We were long distance-ish and saw each other every other weekend on average. We started going out when we were teenagers, and over the course of our 6-year relationship, we went from 15 years old holding hands on the couch to sleeping over in separate rooms to sleeping in the same bed. We were so happy when our parents let us sleep in the same bed. They would stay up for hours after we went to bed, just talking and kissing and cuddling. I used to look forward to that hour or two just lying in bed so much, but then she started just rolling over and going to sleep after not seeing me for 2 weeks. Sometimes she wouldn't even give me a kiss when I got off the bus. Not out of malice, but because the passion just wasn't there for her anymore. I was still as stupidly in love with her at 22 as when I was 16. She wasn't. Story 21. Probably when I saw my ex respond to his sister needing help. He'd already tucked in bed when his sister came home after partying. No big deal. Then all of a sudden we hear the door open and a guy at the door. At this point I'm a tad concerned, but my boyfriend just lays there. Okay. Then at some point we hear her say, "No, you can't sleep in my bed. You're sleeping on the couch." At this point, I'm wondering why my boyfriend hasn't checked on her, so I ask, and he responds, "She is intoxicated. I'm afraid of angering her." For context, this girl doesn't have a drinking problem or anything. He just didn't want to step on her toes. At this point, I tell him if he doesn't do something, I will. He freaks out, says, "No, I'm pissed." Didn't seem to understand I was pissed at him and not her. So he says, No, I'll take care of it," and he grabs his phone and leaves the apartment building. Not the room, not the floor, the building. To call his mom, who lives in a different country. I just got fed up, asked her sister what was up. It turns out this guy was just too intoxicated to find one of the 30 Ubers he had requested. We shoved him in an Uber and he was on his way. I dated that guy for 4 years and loved him, but I couldn't have children with someone like him. I understand he doesn't want to hurt anyone, but sometimes hurting someone is worth if it stops them from getting hurt worse by something or someone else. Story 22. A lot of times when we argued, it would end up with him saying I wasn't satisfying him. Anything intimate that I did was never enough for him. I felt like he didn't appreciate what took me courage to send him. When he called me close-minded for not thinking exactly how he does, when I felt bad that my sister was depressed and hurting herself, I told him about it and he said, "She'll get over it. It's no big deal." When I started to get feelings for someone else, I would feel happier seeing my friend's name on my phone instead of my boyfriend at the time. Oddly enough, after I broke up with my boyfriend, my feelings for my friend subsided. It can be the little signs that you might tell yourself, no, it'll be fine, or this is normal behavior, or I'm used to it. It wasn't until now that I'm dating someone else that I realized I was with the wrong person. One thing that sucks about my previous relationship is that now I feel insecure about intimacy and if I'm enough for my new significant other. What I'm thankful for is that he reassures me it's okay and we'll get through it together. Story 23. Not my current significant other, but my ex. I knew she wasn't the one pretty early on simply because everything I did, or did not do, always caused her to have a big existential crisis and it just got really hard on my morale, real quick. But she was hot, so I kept it going for 2 years. I just knew from month 3 that she wasn't the mother of my future kids. The breakup still sucked because I loved her regardless of how up and down the relationship was. Story 24. He moved away. I went to go visit him. Everything was okay, but when I got home, he sent me a message about how I will never see you again. We have no future together, and I'm ending it all at the end of the month. Then he ghosted me for like 3 months, came back, tried to fix things, despite him being insanely jealous and paranoid that I was fooling with other men, even though he told me he never wanted to see me again. He still thought it was my boyfriend that entire time. Stupid me took time off and spent hundreds of dollars to go visit him again, and when I got there, he wouldn't take any pictures with me and told me not to kiss him. I accused him of being ashamed of being with me, then he went full rage mode and told me that I was texting other people behind his back. Oh, you just hurt his ego. He still doesn't care about you. Story 25. My ex-fiancé. He was very controlling and actually caused my depression. He made a lot of comments about my weight and cheated on me during the time he made me do sports to lose more weight. He also had a narcissistic personality, which sadly is getting worse by each year. I broke it off and slowly gained some self-esteem and independence. We're still friends now, but I sometimes doubt if our friendship will last. Sadly, I owe him so much for some of the good things he did for me as I was starting out as an adult and feel guilty. Or he'll make you feel guilty for abandoning him. His personality as of late is evolving to becoming more assertive and controlling. He makes very stupid life decisions, and several times, me and his friends have staged interventions for him. I don't know if he's just stupid or suffering from some sort of mental breakdown like his father did. Looking back, I dodged a huge bullet. Around the time I ended a relationship, it was $30,000 in debt. He would never stand up for me when his family screamed at me, and yes, the multiple cheatings. It was a toxic relationship I was glad I was over with. Story 26. Gay marriage became legal. The very day the marriage equality became the law of land in the United States, I was confronted with that option as a reality. It was crystal clear in my mind that I could never marry this man. As if trying to help confirm this fact, he proceeded to insist on leaving the big celebration rally in Los Angeles because it was boring and he wanted to get substances. I asked him if he could please forego that as it was a historic day I wanted us to celebrate and appreciate together. No dice. I was trying to control him. Honestly, he was an emotionally and verbally cruel schmuck who weaponized his own anxiety, and I'm still figuring out how I was manipulated into staying with him for so damn long. I'm so glad that gay marriage snapped me out of it. I decided that day to leave him despite our intertwined lives and all the money he owed me, etc. Worth it. Oh, and by complete chance, the amazing man I'm with today, and the love of my life, worked directly on preparing the Obergefell versus Hodges case for the Supreme Court. That's the very case that resulted in the court ruling that the 14th Amendment requires states to license and recognize same-sex marriage. Thanks, babe. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 27. I was with a guy for a year. Everything was great at first, and I fell in love pretty quickly, but within a few months of dating, I just knew he wasn't the one. I guess I fell in love with the idea of him, but I never truly felt super strong feelings for him. It was selfish of me for staying with him for an entire year, but I guess I really wanted it to work. Almost every little thing he did got on my nerves, and I feel like if you truly love someone, little things about them shouldn't annoy you to the extreme. So I guess that's how I realized this guy was definitely not the one for me. Story 28. I dated my ex for 2 years in high school, and at the time I thought we were made for each other. We clicked on so many levels. Music interests and much more I can think of right now. However, the longer we dated, the more I noticed certain things. She was very against me wanting to major in engineering in college because she claimed engineering doesn't help people like medicine does, which is what she wanted to do in life. It's funny though, I'm now a pre-med student for other reasons. She was very adamant about us fighting when we had a disagreement, and being someone who dislikes conflict, I always refused to fight and just talk it out like mature people, but she was never interested in that and would ignore me for hours on end. She went and cheated on me twice. Told me both times that the second time said, and I quote, "He'll let me off the first time, so I did it again." She was very witchy. She said so herself. And before we dated and in between us dating on and off, she would go around and try something new with a guy. The last straw was when she would tell all her friends about the things she did while I was sitting beside her. The most embarrassing thing I ever had to sit through. There were quite a few other things that she did. However, these were the big four things that stood out to me. Story 29. I don't know if I believe in the concept of the one, but I realized early on, the first 6 to 8 months, because of her higher financial expectations of lifestyle. She comes from a wealthy family that pretty much gives her whatever she wants and supports her life. Though a very nice thing, it definitely shaped her expectations. When things would elevate to more serious financial commitments in the relationship, I would be expected to deliver well above my current means, alone, akin to what she's familiar with. It was subtle in the beginning because of early stage relationship bliss, but became more prevalent later on. Never marry princesses when you don't make enough, you know? Story 30. He totaled my car on Valentine's Day morning. I was home with our infant son while he got hammered with friends. He decided to drive my car home at 4:30 in the morning with a BAC over 3 times the legal limit. Hit 2 parked cars, got arrested, got bailed out, came home, matter-of-factly told me that my car was demolished, then went to bed. I tried to make it work for another year, but that was truly the last straw. Thankfully, we co-parent well, and I married my soulmate in May. Sometimes those terrible things happen, you learn from them, and you can turn it all around. Story 31. When he valued video games, Pokemon cards, and his other collection flame of the month like Funko Pops over anything our son or myself actually needed, including time with him. I started that relationship with a healthy savings, a place of my own, fully paid off vehicle, and fast track to a good life. And now I have no vehicle, live with my best friend and her family, nothing to my name, major kidney stones and anxiety problems, and a child that I have had to be pretty creative in providing for. But it's all good. He's got everything he could ever ask for, responsibility-free. I have a wonderful little one that makes life a joy and wows me every day with new words or sweet or silly things he does. I'd still be a bit salty over the ex, but over time, I'm pretty sure he'll see what he let go and walk away from one heck of a kid who's growing into one heck of a person. Story 32. I hadn't seen my family for over 2 years because of certain circumstances that are not important, and close to 3 without seeing my mom. I was visiting them for 3 weeks, and my ex wanted to come with me to vacation, so I got her tickets as well. My mother, brother, and brother girlfriend drive to pick us up at the airport, and we go to In-N-Out because my ex had mentioned once before that she misses those burgers from when she used to live in CA, and my family is the kind of people that would try to make her feel good. We eat, we talk a lot, catch up, etc., the usual. When we're leaving, everyone goes to the restroom except my girlfriend and I. She grabs my arm and says, "Are you mad at me? Are you not giving me enough attention?" I was so confused I couldn't answer. That's when it hit me how much attention she needed and how sometimes she would just not put herself in my position before complaining about something. Signs had been there before, but it wasn't until then that I realized how selfish she can be. Story 33. A few weeks after she left me for her coworker. We were high school sweethearts, and even before we dated, I had a raging crush on her for almost 2 years. She wasn't exactly my first crush, but she was my hardest crush. After almost 12 years of being together in some form of relationship or another, I guess she came to her senses. So she told me, and realized she didn't love me. Like, ever. At first, I thought this was one of those spiritual tests that we were to go through to see if we could make it, but after a month or so, I figured that life wasn't like the movies, and this change was forever. The separation was official a month or so later, and the divorce happened about a year after that. Story 34. The time he called the phone number on my phone because it wasn't saved under a contact, thinking I was cheating on him. It was one of my clients who was also a female. Only her jealous AF boyfriend answered the phone, thinking his girl was cheating on him, and the guy she was screwing was calling her. So our 2 idiot jealous boyfriends were yelling at each other, accusing each other of being with the other's girlfriend. Over nothing. Because they didn't have her number saved and she was a new client. I legit thought maybe it was a new male client they had called until I saw her again, and she explained it to me. We had a good laugh and had both dumped the losers. Fun times. Story 35. Among many things, I realized he very rarely had a conversation with me. I would speak and he'd either totally ignore it, belittle me, or not respond to what I just said to change the subject entirely. He very rarely asked me any questions instead of speaking in length about himself or his views. I remember very clearly on my birthday he said, "I was going to get you a movie, but didn't know what you'd like." Mother trucker we've been dating for 2 years. I'm an idiot for having stayed so long, but it was mostly me saving up money and playing pretend for the last 7 months so I could move out. He couldn't tell the difference because he didn't care about me as a girlfriend. Just a roommate who would listen to his ramblings. Story 36. First, I realized I preferred to spend my free time with my friends instead of her. I soon started spending more time at work voluntarily instead of going home, and finally, after years of being on the same page of not wanting kids, she tells me that she wants kids now. Spent a couple weeks trying to figure out how to break up with her. We'd been together for nearly 10 years. I then found text messages on her phone that confirmed she had been cheating on me for months. I was relieved it was over, and I didn't have to be the bad guy. Wow, the universe gave you an out. Lucky guy. Story 37. When my ex tried to accuse me of being misogynistic for not wanting to see the Ghostbusters reboot. Then when I told her that doesn't look good and the reviews I heard about it were bad, she asked me if it was a guy or a girl reviewer. And when I informed her that I'd seen reviews from both and that in my opinion it looks bad, she called me a misogynist. After about 30 minutes of arguing and not getting through to her, I just said, screw it, grabbed my crap and left. Tried to patch it up, even offered to go see the movie, but she made up her mind that I was just sexist. Needless to say, I broke it off a couple days later. Story 38. I got some hard crap. I'll go with a more slow-paced one. I didn't have much luck with men in high school, college either, so I resorted to the online dating thing. Back in February of 2010, I met this guy online. He was cute, liked the same music as me, smoked, and lived close by. Now I figured he meets a lot of my checklist requirements. I'll give him a shot. So we met, things went good, hung out again. Things continued to be good. He was laid back, polite, and didn't want intimacy right away. Next thing you know, we were a couple. Then he moved in. He needed a place to go. I ended up moving to a new city because I transferred to a cheaper college. He came with me. He was the backbone to my social life at this point. I wasn't making new friends. Sure, I'd make small talk with people at school and at work, but socializing for me was pretty much me and him hanging at home, going to the mall, going get food, then our trips back to our old town. Eventually, I ended up moving back home. One day, when I was high off being surrounded by friends again, I remember we were all being crass weird with our sense of humor, and he tried to chime in and just wasn't funny. Like, at all. It was cringeworthy. I thought about it that night and realized how much for that year I was living out of my hometown that I didn't laugh. I never really noticed how unfunny this guy was and how our convos were so mundane. I was always like, where do you want to eat? This food is good. I have a headache. That guy just cut me off in traffic. Did you like the movie? It was always like small talk throughout the whole relationship. Now, before I sound like a total schmuck, I didn't dump him right away. I attempted to let him get established back in our town, and in the process, I found out that he had flirted with a few girls online, so it was whatever. But when I found out, I was already mentally done with the guy, so I was fine with it. Story 39. When I realized I kind of dreaded hanging out with her. We'd text a lot, and she'd actively go over our texts all the time, then immediately call me out if I ever expressed an opinion different from something I'd said in passing 8 months ago. She also decided at some point that I didn't give her credit for the things she finds, and that became this obnoxious sticking point where whenever I'd find something cool and try to share it with her, she'd immediately turn it into a fight about how she showed it to me months ago. In fairness, that probably did happen a few times, but again, it was her expecting me to remember exact details of every conversation we'd ever had for months afterwards. No allowances for things being mentioned in passing or me forgetting. I was expected to know and lavish credit to her for every link she ever passed to me. And she started lying about it. I think she was so taken with her internal narrative that I was a crappy boyfriend for this particular reason that she unintentionally put that framework on everything. At a certain point, it got so ridiculous, her claiming to have shown me brand new movie trailers months ago that I just stopped trying to talk about things I enjoyed with her. Story 40. All the little things added up to he didn't value or respect me as a person. Still, it took me 2 years to realize we didn't match up well. Highlight reel includes repeatedly joking about him hurting my dog because he was getting old and expensive because of health issues. Only stopped when every time, after my first 3 rational "this is not appropriate and is upsetting because" style conversations, he started talking about it and I immediately burst into tears and screamed at him to stop. He held me down on the bed and joked that it would be really easy to mistreat me because, look, I couldn't even stop him right then. Not once, twice. Only got off the first time I screamed, and the second time I threatened him if he didn't get off me. Made hurtful, snide, nasty jokes about me sleeping with his best friend, who lived with us, to punish me for not doing my chores when and how he wanted me to do them. Yeah, he should be behind bars. Story 41. I dated a guy for 3 years. I was going to propose to him when he graduated college this year. Sadly, I got a well-paying job in another state 5 hours drive away, forcing me to move. I was more than willing to put up with driving down on Fridays and driving back Sundays, just to see him and he could visit me when he got a chance. He basically said he wants to have access to me 7 days a week and would be paranoid that I'd cheat on him. He also lied to me when I applied for the job, saying he would be okay with it if I got it. He cut all ties 1 week after I moved. Story 42. When I was in pain or hurt by his actions, ditching me for whatever reason, not considering my feelings when doing anything, always forgetting everything, I would talk to him about how and what he did that hurt me. Instead of trying to hear me out on why I was hurting because of him, he would go to his friends and family to confirm with them that he was normal while I was crazy. Almost every fight or conversation would basically end like this. Friends and family say that I'm normal and you're not, so if you're hurting, that sucks, but I'm just going to keep doing what I want to do because I'm right, regardless if you're hurting. It would have been better if he would at least try to understand, but he just gaslighted me and made other people call me crazy so he could continue doing whatever he pleased while I cried myself to sleep every night, telling myself I was the problem. Fortunately, he broke up with me. I would have stayed forever. I put him in a pedestal, thinking I was the problem for the longest time. Because of the breakup, I realized, wow, damn, I wasn't crazy. I wasn't perfect in the relationship, but at least I know that I'm normal, and it was easier for him to blame me for everything rather than compromising with each other. I loved that kid with all my heart, and I'm pretty sure I will for a long, long time, but at least I know better now and won't come running back to someone like that. Story 43. The way he treated his formerly estranged and back in his life after 12 years, 14-year-old daughter. Disgusting and disgraceful. He was manipulative, mean, and lied outright to catch her doing things teens do. Fortunately, she never lived with us and wasn't subjected to his BS very much. Poor kid had a really crappy life, and when she came back, I was looking forward to helping her and building a relationship. We each had similar lives when young. His unapologetic, narcissistic, cruel attitude toward her made me feel so sick. I knew he could never make up for it with me, or her. He actually tried to make himself a victim of her mother and justify taking it out on her. No. Bye. Story 44. When she met my parents. We dated for 2 years. I bought a ring and decided to propose in San Francisco after she met my parents. I hadn't told her before, but my parents are very wealthy. We flew first class, drove one of my dad's cars, spent 2 weeks driving around California before spending another week at their vacation home in Lake Tahoe, all expenses paid. I was going to pop the question on our last day in SF before the flight home. The entire 5-hour drive from Tahoe to SF, all she could talk about was the money. Mainly, when did I get it? I threw up a red flag, so I postponed the proposal. We got home, and suddenly nothing was good enough for her. My parents should buy us a new house. I should have a trust fund. I need to make more so we could have nicer things. I already made good money. When we fly, we can only fly first class. This continued for a few months when it finally came to the breaking point. She bought a new car and expected me to make the payments. Broke it off shortly thereafter. In better news, my fiancé is awesome and couldn't care less about the money. Story 45. We were both celebrating birthdays. Mine was the 12th and hers was the 15th. We had planned on going out clubbing with friends. The day of her birthday, her friends say they have no money. I say I'll pay for them, but they refuse. Then comes up with the idea of only us two going to the club. I said I would rather have all of our friends together. Why don't we go out in the town, catch a nice dinner, and go sightseeing? She refuses. Starts a fight with me, ignores my calls, and ends up going to the club with her friends. How they got the money out of nowhere? Who knows? It is safe to say that was the last straw. Dropped off her gift at her house and said I was done. Story 46. They came out as trans male. After I'd broken up, I held on hope that maybe one day we would get back together. We were amazing together. We truly cared for one another, and it was a special connection, but eventually they came out as trans. Now, let me say, I 100% support the trans population. I love all of you. Trans men and women are some of the toughest people I've ever met, and people are horrible towards the community. But personally, I'm straight. I find no attraction to the male form. They were pansexual, so there was no doubt the feelings were real, but I can never be in a relationship with absolutely no physical attraction. I still know them well, and we talk when we can. They have a great support system and a stable life. I smile whenever I see how happy they are. There's a difference in their smile. I'd only ever seen the smile they have now one time before, and that was when we went to prom. We cuddled up in this chair outside on the balcony and just laughed and smiled and enjoyed ourselves. I'd always wondered where that smile went. Now that they're out, transitioned, and living their life the way they're meant to, that smile shows up in every picture. I want to cry a little from how happy I am, knowing that they're truly happy. Story 47. Late to the party, and this is still fresh, but yeah. Basically, I realized when I looked at my future, marriage, kids, whatever, I didn't see it with her. She and her family throw insults as a form of affection. I never really cared for this. She'd poke and prod me and do things she knew makes me angry because she thought it was funny, and if I ever had the audacity to stand up and go, hey, come on. She'd just whine about how she was just kidding and why do I have to be so serious? She'd flat out tell me things I liked doing were stupid. Bands I liked sucked, and that friends I had were boring. She'd hang up the phone on me over trivial stuff, stop speaking to me over dumb arguments, and overall, just made me feel like I was freaking stupid. I tried to bring this up to her, and she would either, again, deflect that she was just kidding, or in the cases where I guess she thought I was serious, started crying. There was no in between. I recently moved away for a job, and she came to visit me for my birthday. I was not excited for her to visit, and within an hour of her visiting, she'd spent 70% of her time complaining. That was basically my final confirmation that this was not something I wanted to try and fix. Despite all that, I don't think she's a terrible person. I just don't think our personalities are compatible. Okay, buddy. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. Catch you in that video.